What's up, Met fans? Welcome back. Talkin Mets and Rob. How's everybody doing? Before I get started talking about Sandy Alderson and why this guy needs to be fired, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Alright, guys. So, why do I think Sandy Alderson needs to get fired? There's so many reasons to get into, but it is clear as day from day one when he became president of baseball operations for our New York Mets. I told you from the beginning it was a bad move. I understand why Steve Cohen did it. I completely understand. He needed the votes from the other baseball owners to get the majority to get him to be the owner of the New York Mets. I completely get that idea. But remember why Sandy Alderson was picked and what he was picked for. He was picked to run everything operations. He was supposed to have nothing to do with the baseball aspect. But because Sandy Alderson couldn't get a GM, couldn't get a president, now Sandy Alderson was thrown in to more of the baseball operations aspect of the team. The player acquisitions, free agency, trades, and so on. That was what was supposed to happen until Sandy Alderson couldn't find a president or a GM. Then he had that mistake of hiring Jared Porter. That was another red flag. It's just on and on situations with Sandy Alderson that just brings you back to the Wilpons. Brings you back to the days when the cheapness was obvious. Sandy Alderson is a guy who likes to lower numbers, lower the price, no matter the issue, no matter what is needed for this team. It's continued to be the same aspect, the same situation over and over and over again. He was brought in all those years ago with the Wilpons when the Ponzi scheme happened to help him with the books, to not spend as much money. That was exactly what Sandy Alderson was for. He had to rebuild without spending money for many years. And then 2015 happened. Remember what happened in 2015. The Mets weren't really projected to make the playoffs. They weren't projected to be a good team. But they were one of the worst offensive teams in baseball in 2015 before the Cespedes trade. Look at Sandy Alderson's tenure. So for everybody who wants to give credit to Sandy Alderson and credit where it's due to Sandy Alderson, they're not paying attention. I've said this from the beginning. In 2015, we had one of the worst offense in baseball in 2015. The worst. I mean, Eric Campbell was batting cleanup. Do we all remember that? Or do we like to forget because of what happened in the second half? That's the problem with a lot of Met fans. That's the problem with a lot of us. We tend to only look at the good things and bypass the bad things when it comes to the season. The same thing with Edwin Diaz, the same thing with the Mets first half, etc., etc. Sandy Alderson puts together teams that traditionally have bad offenses. And I'm not going back to the Oakland A's when he was running things there. Because let's be honest, when he got Canseco, when he got McGuire shooting up steroids to hit monster home runs, you could probably going to have a good team. But Sandy Alderson never puts a good offensive team on the field. He worries about on-base percentage. He worries about defense. Let me check something. How's good have the on-base percentage have been for this team? How good has the offense have been? They've been terrible. Absolutely terrible. In 2015, it was the same thing until Cespedes fell into his lap. We got to remember, in 2015, 5 days in Flushing wasn't made because Sandy Alderson did a good job. 5 days in Flushing was made because the Mets are inept. Sandy Alderson is not good at his job when it comes to situations like that. He waited so long that the only option he had was Yoenis Cespedes. That's why 5 days in Flushing was made. You think if Sandy Alderson would have got Cespedes a week before the deadline or a couple of days before the deadline, there would have been a 5 days in Flushing? No. There was 5 days in Flushing because Sandy Alderson is too patient and never likes the price of trading prospects or the price of getting a player that can help this team. He always had that problem, and he still does to this day. Coming into 2021, in the offseason, I said from the beginning, Sandy Alderson is going to be a huge problem. It does not matter how much money Steve Cohen has. Because you have to remember, Steve Cohen said it in the interview when he first took over the team. He says he likes to hire people and lets them do their job. He's going to hire baseball people to let them do their job. He's not going to intervene. We already seen them. Steve Cohen started to intervene into the baseball operations when he noticed that Sandy Alderson wasn't doing what he expected. We saw it during the trade deadline. Sandy Alderson was waiting. We heard him. They had their hands in all the damn cookie jars. But what really got done? Rich Hill? Come on. One big trade? And do you consider Javi Baez a big trade? I don't. I didn't want Javi Baez. It made no sense to get Javi Baez. Yes, I understand Luis Francisco Lindor is out. I get that. But Jonathan Villar can easily play shortstop with no issues. We did not need a shortstop. And then what did Zach Scott say? In every interview he done, a week or two during the trade, before the trade deadline. We need pitching. He didn't even talk about position plays until he was on Karn and Roberts, and they asked him specifically about Chris Bryant. He kept on continuing to say, we need pitching. We got Rich Hill and Trevor Williams, who hasn't even seen the Major League roster. That's a problem. So their mindset is just lacking. It just does not make sense. And in my opinion, guys, this is exactly what Steve Cohen should do to Sandy Alderson. That's exactly what needs to be done to Sandy Alderson. He needs to be fired. Because you cannot continue to be so patient when you have a first place team and be so complacent and be so the lack of aggressiveness is an absolute joke. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really does not make sense to me. We needed a third baseman. Everybody who loves J.D. Davis, what has he done with the bat? Did you watch Saturday against Philadelphia? How he swung at 3 straight fastballs up in the zone? I'm so sick of hearing J.D. Davis. I'm so sick of him. He's not good with the glove. He's not a great fielder. He doesn't run the bases well. He doesn't do nothing well. We put him in there. He's still on this team because he can hit. He has not hit. That's the biggest problem. It continues the same thing. Dominic Smith, J.D. Davis, Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, Brandon Nimmo. We talk about George Springer. Oh, he was hurt. He only played 43 games. He talked about George Springer. Yay, George Springer. George Springer played 43 games, and he has better numbers than guys that played 100 games this year or 80 games this year. We talk about injuries with Springer, but Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, all of those guys were out for a month and a half. So I don't want to hear about injuries. George Springer played 43 games. He has better numbers than Conforto, better numbers than Nimmo, better numbers than Davis. So I don't want to hear none of that. Sandy Alderson needs to be fired. He did not do enough to make this team competitive in the playoffs. And now we're looking out of the playoffs right now in third place because of that debacle in Philadelphia over 3 games. That is the biggest problem. This is the mentality of Sandy Alderson. He saw the Mets were in first place. They haven't played good all year. Anybody who thinks they have are fooling themselves. The Mets have not played good all year. The reason why they were in first place is because the division is terrible and still is terrible. The Mets offense never was good this year. Never. So I don't understand why people are talking about, oh, there was a lot of people on Twitter that said, oh, the Mets don't need nothing. Are you fucking kidding me? It's a joke. The mentality of Sandy Alderson was the Mets are in first place. The division is not any good. We don't need to ruffle the apple cart and leave things the way they are. And then it looked like the Mets weren't going to do nothing. And then you heard the quote and all the rumors about Steve Cohen wanting Sandy Alderson to make a big splash. At that moment, there was nothing left for Sandy Alderson to do. There was Javi Baez and Chris Bryant. And as I said in my other video, when the San Francisco Giants got involved with the Giants, with the Cubs, there was no way the Mets were going to match an offer for Chris Bryant. So the Mets had one option, Javier Baez. Did that sound familiar to you guys? One option, Yoenis Cespedes, 2015. If Cespedes didn't hit, it would have been a debacle. We would have talked about how non-aggressive Sandy Alderson was. Exactly what he did in 2021. He thought the Mets can easily win the division without doing nothing. He got a rude awakening over the weekend. After the All-Star break. Exactly what happened. That's the biggest issue with Sandy Alderson. He's not aggressive. He never wants to give a price that a team's asking for. I understand you want to do a little bit of negotiation. But let's be honest. We have guys in the minor leagues that are raking right now. Why ain't these guys up? I'd rather see Vientos than Davis right now. No? Wouldn't you? That's my problem. If you're going to have prospects, fucking use them. Ronnie Mauricio has no position. He has nowhere to play. He's played shortstop in the minor leagues. You can't put him at shortstop. Or you know what? How about bringing up Mauricio? Why don't you just bring him up? If you needed a shortstop. Why give away Pete Crow Armstrong for Javier Baez? Even if you do sign him. Which I think it would be a disaster, in my opinion, to sign him long term. He's a hothead, and he's too streaky, which the Mets have enough of those type of players. The biggest issue with Sandy Alderson is his non-aggressiveness, the lack of trying to pay for prospects for a trade, and the lack of spending money when he has it. He has never changed. He will not change. Until Steve Cohen realizes that, the New York Mets are going to be the same team over and over and over again that we've seen this year. The lack of offense throughout the whole year. The bad defense, which is the defense has been good this year, which is shocking. But let's be honest, the good defense has been good because of the bench mob, not because of the starters. J.D. Davis and Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo all were hurt during that time when the defense was actually excellent. And that was all because of the Kevin Pillars of the world, the Almoras of the world, the Villars of the world, right? That's why. The lack of trying to get Real Muto in the offseason. Because he didn't want to wait for Real Muto market to develop. So he went to get James McCann, who's never been a starter in the league. Remember that. Never been a starter in the league, but you give him 4 years, $40 million. Who's been a backup catcher his entire career. So we trusted that. And then, remember, they talked about his defense, yes. But they went on and on and on about the offense that he's projected to have. That's what they went on. The lack of noticing the market for JT Realmuto when there's no market except for the Phillies. Sandy Alderson pivoted to James McCann right away. When we can easily outbid the Phillies for JT Realmuto. The same thing with George Springer. Didn't want to give another 1 year, $25 million to get him away from Toronto. When he is better than Brandon Nimmo. He is better than everybody in this lineup. In 43 games, he has 13 home runs, 43 RBIs. Batting .280. That's way better than anybody on this team right now. That's the biggest problem with Sandy Alderson. One more time, Steve Cohen, this is what you have to do to Sandy Alderson. That's what you have to do with Sandy Alderson. Fire his ass and get somebody in here who is not afraid to make a move and make the big splash. That is my take on why the Mets should fire Sandy Alderson. Guys, I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy all my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys, about Sandy Alderson and what Steve Cohen should do. Fire his ass. That's what I think. I want to thank you guys for watching. And as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.